Red Sox win the final game against the Braves as Brayan Bello impresses.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to welcome you back into Locked On Red Sox podcast. Let me start that one more time. I got something in my throat. I have to add this to the bloopers. Jeez. I want to welcome you back into the Locked On Red Sox podcast, and thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I'm your host, Jake Ignaszewski, and here, as always, with my co-host, NESN's Laure and Willand. And the Red Sox find a way to beat the Braves in the final game of their two-game series. And ironically, the game right after our last episode, where we were speaking about Nick Pivetta and the possibility of Brayan Bello being the odd man out of the rotation, I think Bello listened to the episode before his start, got motivated, needed to dominate, and really needed to show us, as well as the rest of the Red Sox fans, he's here to stay and he deserves to stay in the rotation.
Yeah, he came out with a fire under him, and he even said after the game that, there was a spark lit under him and he didn't want to go back to Worcester. I mean, who does when you're in this position and you know that you are capable of being a Major League Baseball pitcher? You're not going to want to go back to AAA. So I was very, very encouraged from what we saw, or by what we saw from Bello. I thought he had really good command. Yes, he was left in a little too late, but that's no fault of his own. And also, if he's going to be every 5-day starter, then yeah, I want to see him be able to get into the 6th inning. And you look at the stat line, there's really not a whole lot to complain about there. I think he was working the strike zone. I think he looked confident. And if he goes into every start kind of, with that spark under him and almost as if he's fighting for a spot in the rotation every time he goes out there, then he might be onto something here because, or maybe he listened to the episode. That's fine too. Just, get a little motivation and get pumped up. But yeah, I think fans should be very encouraged from Bello's start on Wednesday, and they should look forward to his next start on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 5 days from now.
And, the other thing, too, is when you look at his stat line, you see the 6 innings, allowed 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. But, I mean, if he got taken out after the 5th inning, he would have thrown a shutout. And, right. I agree with you that maybe he was left in a little bit longer than he should have. But I feel like with young pitchers, especially with somebody like Bello who has the potential that he does, and somebody who could play a big part in the Red Sox rotation down the line and for the foreseeable future of this season, you got to put him in situations where maybe he's a little bit uncomfortable and see how he reacts. I feel like with any young player, whether it's a pitcher or a hitter, being able to put them in situations that they're not 100% used to, especially on the major league level, only helps them instead of hurts them.
Exactly. I think that's exactly it. I think that he's young. Yes, he still has some developing and growing to do, but he needs to do that in real time at this point. I don't think sending him to Worcester is going to help him by any means, and I don't think he's going to get sent to Worcester unless, like we talked about yesterday, there's an injury or something just catastrophic happens. Mm-hmm. But I think that he's here to stay. And I think that his start on Wednesday definitely helped propel that narrative. And I think that Alex Cora, once the starting rotation looks healthy with those 7 starters, he's going to have some tough decisions to make. Yes, maybe some people are more obvious than others to go into that bullpen. But you look at if Brayan Bello can keep on this track and be consistent for the Red Sox, that's obviously good news for Boston and for Bello and bad news for opponents, but also bad news for one of his teammates.
And, when looking at this start, hindsight's always 20/20. So we can always a day later or, looking at the game, after it's finished, say, Bello probably should have been taken out earlier than he was. But, during the game, I mean, out of the 5th inning, there's nothing that, Bello did in those 5 innings, of scoreless baseball where you're like, maybe his control is going to, decline a little bit in the 6th inning. Maybe we should have taken him out, after the 5th inning and not allowed him to go into the 6th. Nobody expected Acuna to hit a ball, 460 or, Eddie Rosario to get an RBI single. And, I feel like as well, maybe they could have, put him in this sort of situation, not against one of the best offenses in the league or one of the best teams in all of baseball in the Atlanta Braves, who, are red hot right now. But, especially in his comments, he was up for the competition. You brought up, he said, a spark was lit under him after being sent down. But then he also said he's like, now facing a Braves team that's good. He said, I consider myself to be good myself. So I showed it tonight. And you want that confidence with any young pitcher or any young player, especially early in their career.
You do. And the confidence is a huge thing. And I think that we saw a lot of that from Bello on Wednesday. We saw a lot of confidence come from him. And yeah, I mean, you're going up against arguably MLB's best offense. There's going to be likely runs. There's going to be balls in play. But I think Bello went out there and really just kind of left it all on the field. He gave his best performance, I think, maybe of his short MLB career, definitely this season. And, we've talked about the role that he can play for this team going forward. He could have the opportunity to, not necessarily this year, but be a potential ace of this staff. We're getting a nice look at the future of this team, with Casas, with even Duran. He continued to his hot streak there, and Bello and the young guys. And it looks bright. And right now the Red Sox are playing good baseball, and Bello is part of that.
And, the other thing with Bello that I found interesting is, he was averaging 97 miles per hour on his fastball. And, throughout the beginning of this season, he's averaged 95.8 miles per hour. And so to see a little bit of an uptick of, 1.2 miles per hour, you don't generally see that often. You started to see it dip a little bit as he got later in the game, but you expect that most times. And, being able to see him, pitch with a little bit more motivation, with a little bit more fire. Maybe that's what did it in terms of the velocity. But as much as, we saw, 97 consistently from him on Wednesday, adding that in with a 95 mile per hour sinker, as long with his other breaking pitches, I mean, he's just getting filthier and filthier each and every single start.
He is. And I think that that's going to continue to be a thing with Bello. And that's a very, very good thing. That's a good problem to have for him and for Alex Cora and the Red Sox. So I'm really looking forward to his next start, looking forward to how he not even bounces back, but just how he continues and maybe carry that momentum going into his next start. Yeah. And, he passed a good test, whether it was intentional or not, going up against the Braves, a very strong offense and a good team. And he passed. I think he passed with flying colors. And now let's do this against bad teams. Let's do this against AL East teams. Let's do this against teams that any MLB team, because a win is a win. And the Red Sox, they have a good amount of wins right now, more than I thought they'd have on May 11th. And I want this to keep going. And I want Bello to help this team get wins. Even if he did leave after 5 and he had the shutout there, there's no telling how that game would have gone. But he did his job, and I feel like he's going to continue to keep doing that start after start after start.
And in his next start, he's going to be facing the Mariners, and essentially the rotation that Cora brought up 2 days ago and that we talked about on our last episode. He's going to be going on May 17th, and that is going to be the next biggest test for him, I believe. Everybody was like putting a lot of stock into this start. Essentially, it was brought up in the Pivetta interview after his rough start, but sort of the audition. And that's a word that's been used for a month or so now. You're essentially auditioning to stay in this rotation on this team and to be looked at as a cornerstone piece for this organization for years to come. And, I think the next start against the Mariners, who have been scuffling a little bit, but they still have a very powerful offense, could really determine, what decisions Alex Cora in the front office do ultimately make, after, Whitlock comes back and, all the pieces fall into place. But, really excited to see how, everything continues to materialize, and, also excited to continue to overanalyze, like it's really easy to when trying to guess what these different decisions will be. But not only with the start that we saw from Bello, it was also really nice to see Kenley Jansen tack on his 400th save of his career. And he's only the 7th pitcher to record 400 saves, and actually did it in the second quickest time. Francisco Rodriguez did it when he was 34 years old in 138 days, and Kenley Jansen, 35 years old with 222 days. And then, the leaders in terms of saves, Mariano Rivera did it when he was 36, Trevor Hoffman, 37.
Oh, I mean, what a list, first of all, and just how great of a moment for Jansen, who played against or played with the Braves last year, and then got to celebrate, not only with his teammates, but with Justin Turner and Kike Hernandez, they were teammates when they were with the LA Dodgers. So just a really cool moment of, lots of hugs. He had a video tribute in the clubhouse with messages from old Dodgers teammates, and including Clayton Kershaw. And then I think he had a guitar as well. It was just a really cool celebration, and you could just tell just the genuine happiness and the genuine love for the game in his messages that he posted on Twitter, and just how everyone was excited around him. And I was cracking up when Alex Cora was like, I wanted them to stop scoring runs because I wanted him to get this save. Like, of course you want the runs, but you had, Casas and, Raimel Tapia also contributing to the late inning rally there, and Alex Cora is like, nah, stop scoring runs. This guy's got to get his save, and he did. And you think, like, that's a lot of saves. That's a lot of times to be depended on. And kind of going under the radar this season is that pitch clock is not bugging him at all. So he's getting, he's looking really sharp. He's looking probably better than he has in a very long time. And he was worried about the pitch clock because he admitted he's a slow guy, very slow pitcher, and he looks, I don't know if the pitch clock revived him, but I am very happy he's in a Red Sox uniform, and that's a huge accomplishment. Like you said, only the 7th player to accomplish that feat, and here's to 400 more.
And I think the other component that a lot of people forget about is we're talking about a guy who started his career as a catcher. He got signed as a catcher, not a relief pitcher, not a closer. You always go back to the WBC play where, he threw out a runner at second base behind the plate. And, now he's, being recognized as one of the best closers in MLB history, and especially to have your name with two guys like Mariano Rivera, Trevor Hoffman, even, K-Rod back in the day, with the Mets, it was such a dominant closer. But I feel like as well, this isn't as big as maybe 700 home runs or 30 or 61 home runs like we saw from Pujols and Judge last season. But I feel like with these different milestones, it's a little bit of something that's in the back of your mind that I bet Jansen is not only excited to pass, but now continue to add on to 400 and sort of put it behind him. And now, mainly focus on just going out there each and every single night and dominating, and not, having a thing in the back of my mind. Is this 400 or is the next game 400?
Exactly. That's a milestone that is, crossed off the list now. And he can, not that I think that was weighing heavy on him by any means. He's a pro's pro, and he's been in, other situations before, and, high leverage situations. And, I think that now that it's, checked off, he can really maybe zero in. I mean, he hit 99 miles an hour on the radar gun on Wednesday. I just think he's so locked in right now, and I don't know what's going to derail that. Hopefully nothing. I don't want anything to derail that, but he's just locked in right now. And this Red Sox fans is what it's like to have a legitimate closer on the mound.
It's so relieving. We're going to talk about it in our next episode, but I had a lot of really tough nights last year watching the Red Sox blow leads and blow the games. Most of them were from Jake Diekman, and I wouldn't be surprised that now that the Rays just signed him, he's going to turn into this world-class closer, relief arm like the Rays always love to magically do with their pitchers. But it's just very nice to feel confident going into the 8th or 9th inning and knowing that you have the guys in your bullpen to shut the door. But it's been not only nice to see the Sox continue to shut the door, be able to win games as well. And if you want to continue to watch not only the Sox win games, but watch them in person, Gametime is the best place to make that happen. I actually am going to the game on Friday and got my tickets from Gametime. And biggest reason why I use Gametime, they have flash deals and last minute tickets. It's super easy to also find and buy tickets for every kind of event, concerts, comedy, music, sports, whatever you're interested in. And the best thing that I love about it shows you the images of the seat views. When I'm looking for tickets, I want to know where I'm sitting. I want to know what it looks like. I don't want to, walk in with my eyes closed and be like, oh, wow, I didn't expect this at all. And so really being able to know what you're spending your money on, while also knowing in the back of your mind that Gametime is going to give you the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and etc. So snag the tickets without stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code Locked On MLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And, you brought up a little bit in the first segment talking about what the offense was able to do. But, the Sox had to find a way to come back in this game, which seems to sort of be a theme throughout this season. And they've found ways to be resilient time in and time out. They started the game with the lead in the fourth inning. Kike Hernandez, as well as Jarren Duran, both hit RBI singles to make it 2-0 early on. And then Bello ended up struggling a little bit, as we spoke about, with the Acuna home run and then the RBI single by Eddie Rosario there in the sixth inning. Then the Sox had to find a way to come back, and Raimel Tapia did just that with an RBI double to make it 3-2. And then Tristan Casas continued to impress at the plate, showing off his power, smacked a 2-run bomb to make it 5-2. And I think that ball went like 460 or something like that, similar to as far as we saw from Acuna as well.
That ball was out of there the second it hit the bat. I mean, the swing was incredible. The power behind it was incredible. And he just showcased, like, this is why you need to be patient with people like him. And we've talked about that episode after episode about the patience is there. The on-base percentage is there. The average, yes, it needs some work. But this is why you stay patient with someone like him. He is such a visual hitter. He's such a very, I mentioned like JD Martinez being a trained hitter in a previous episode. It's kind of like that, where you're just, you're training yourself, you're visualizing yourself. You're really like, you're seeing every single pitch. That's exactly what he does. And I just love what I've seen from him, from the patience, from the power. And, we've been hard on Jarren Duran on this show, and understandably so. And he's certainly been at the end of a lot of criticism since stemming from last year and everything that he kind of, went through. And what a 180 he's done. And whether that's, all credited to Dustin Pedroia, of course, he's the one who put in the work as well. Seeing him be able to really contribute to this team, add some insurance, and really just be a big factor to this team, and somebody who's making a difference, and not in a bad way. He's making differences last year, and it was just negative and just like ugly play after ugly play, and getting into it with fans, and to see him just completely do a 180. And just it looks like in all aspects of baseball. And I don't know anything about his personal life, but it certainly seems like he's in a much better spot, is incredible. And then, of course, Tapia just coming in off the bench, pinch hitting that RBI. Just as soon as I saw that, I'm like, they're winning this game. Like, this is a fun game. I like this. This is how you take the lead. This is how you take advantage of runners in scoring position. This is how you take advantage of the people on your bench. It was great. I had fun. It was a lot of fun watching baseball.
And I think what we've seen from both Casas and Duran, with Duran, I still semi-consider him to be a rookie. He's still young in his major league career. With both of those guys, seeing them both showcase a high level of patience, which you don't see from a lot of young hitters. We knew that about Casas. That was something that Duran really changed a lot in terms of his plate discipline coming into this season. But especially with Casas, especially after last night extending his on-base streak to 20 games. And he's one of only 12 players with an on-base streak of 20 games plus in 2023. So especially with him, struggling throughout April and the beginning of May a little bit, it's been really nice to see, him not show that on the outside. I think we see a lot of young guys pout, as well as, allow it to affect the rest of the team. And, you've just seen Casas night in and night out, even though he may strike out 3 times, he's not showcasing that, on the outside and allowing it to affect sort of his performance, even on defense. Because we also saw in this game as well, Justin Turner over at third base had some good plays, but the throws weren't very good at all. Skipped them. And as a first baseman, you got to be able to make those plays and pick them easily.
You do. And I think this is why, he's kind of that platoon option there. And I think that this is why they signed him to be more of the designated hitter than the everyday infielder. And, that's going to happen when you have somebody at a position that they don't play regularly, that they're not 100% comfortable with. And, it is what it is. The offense ended up coming back and bailing out any, mistake or bad throw that the defense committed on Wednesday, and I'm glad it was the young stars and the newcomers to really do it for the Red Sox. And I mean, pick and choose your battles, I guess, with a win, but I prefer if Justin Turner makes those plays, of course, but I'm glad that it wasn't a deciding factor in the outcome of this game.
And I find it interesting too to see him over there. I think I don't 100% know if this is fact, but I think this is the first time we've seen him over at third base so far this season. And he's mainly obviously been the DH and the first baseman. I remember during spring training when they brought it up to him, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna very rarely be over there. So it's nice that he's getting his feet wet back over at third base. Gives Rafael Devers a little bit of some time off. Obviously, we saw him come in and pinch hit there and kind of didn't really get his full day off, but it's nice to be able to have some of that versatility on the team to be able to make that happen. And, we're not only seeing it in Turner's performance at the plate, but also sort of, a big reason why, the Sox decided to bring Turner in rather than JD is that versatility. And it's nice to be able to see that as well. But, the Red Sox also made a few roster moves, and there was also some injury updates as well. But we're going to speak more about that in our second segment, or excuse me, our third segment. But Lauren just wants to take a second to talk to you about Sorare.
So Sorare is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace that transforms fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. So it's different than anything else that you've probably played, or maybe you're a big card collector. This is unlike any other fantasy baseball platform. Sorare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and you can also compete with player cards against global opponents, and you win epic awards. I know a lot of people on our Locked On MLB channel are having a lot of fun playing Sorare. There's been a lot of back and forth the last few days in particular, and one of the best parts about Sorare is that there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next level competitions and rewards. Head to Sorare.com/lockedon, that's spelled SORARE.com, to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's Sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today.
So a name that I think we're going to bring up, throughout the years as somebody who had a very short stint with the Red Sox, somebody like, Al LaRoche or Jason Bay or something like that. But Zach Littell, I feel like we talked about him last week, just getting signed or trade over from the Rangers to the Red Sox. And now he's being designated for assignment. And I feel like when the Red Sox made this trade, it was sort of already in a lot of people's mind. This was just a fill-in move to essentially allow moving pieces to happen. And then, once Paxton ultimately is bumped up, Littell was going to get the bump down or the designated for assignment. But I think this also puts Brendan Bernardino in the clear, and he gets a few more weeks on the squad to continue to show what he could bring to the Red Sox. But Littell ended up appearing in 2 games, allowing 3 runs over 3 innings with 3 hits and 1 walk allowed, and then also struck out 2. And with the James Paxton activation, now he'll either have the opportunity to potentially get traded from the Red Sox, or they'll send him right back down.
Yeah, I think that with Littell in particular, like we talked about this, like he was just here for a quick fill-in, and unless he like dazzled in those 2 appearances, I didn't think he stood really a chance to be on this roster. And now I'm assuming he's going to pass through waivers. He'll probably just get outrighted to Worcester. So we'll see what happens there. But Bernardino, I'm excited. I'm intrigued, I should say. I'm intrigued to see what he can do and what the future holds for him, because this bullpen looks good right now, right? Like, you save for a few pitchers, there's really, there's not a whole lot to complain about with who's in there and how does he fit in. I guess we're going to find out soon enough.
And, also looking at some other updates regarding the team, mostly in the injury department, I want to start off one that is a little bit concerning, but at the same time, it's reported that it's not a big deal. Brayan Bello is currently dealing with a lat issue. He ended up getting taken out of his last Woo Sox start for precautionary reasons. And even going into that start and during that start, continued to struggle with his control. He's somebody who, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but he is around, a 9 walk per 9 statistic, and has really struggled a lot with his control throughout this season. And so curious to see if it is an issue with his lat that's been continuously happening throughout this season, or, is something that is leading to some of these struggles. But Cora said that that they're continuing to wait to see how it looks to feel over the next few days. He said he's going to stay with the team. We're going to reevaluate on Monday when they come back. They're going to put him on the IL, but hopefully it's something that's only going to take a few weeks. So Mata, somebody who not only is a top Red Sox pitching prospect, but somebody who dazzled throughout spring training, and also a player that Cora also brought up could make an impact for the Red Sox throughout the end of the season in 2023. So curious to see how he continues to recover from that lat injury. But some other positive injury updates. Garrett Whitlock will throw a sim game tomorrow at Fenway and then rehab probably with Worcester on Tuesday and could return after that. And I thought it was interesting last night watching the Red Sox broadcast. Dave O'Brien as well as Lou Merlone are like, put him back in the bullpen.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that that came or that's been a topic. I just think that you look at who's in the rotation, who's in the bullpen, who's coming back, who's getting healthier, and who's the odd man out. So I'm not surprised, and I think that the Red Sox, and we've talked about this too, that they have tough decisions to make in the coming weeks, in the coming days, really, and they need to figure out who belongs where, and we've stressed the importance of those defined roles. And I hope that once everyone is healthy and off the IL, that Cora does make those right decisions for the right people.
And, the bullpen has a lot of decisions to be made. We've obviously brought up Bernardino already. Brazier could potentially have a move coming against him in the next, few days or so, with Joey Rodriguez expected to be activated by the end of the weekend. We've spoken about him making a few rehab appearances in Worcester, recently made a rehab appearance in Portland as well. So he seems to be on his way coming back. And so curious to see what the move is, with him being activated at the end of the weekend. But we can do all we can to guess here, but most of the guesses that we've made throughout not only the beginning of the season so far, but also during the off season have pointed to be wrong in terms of some of the roster moves on which guys are going to be sent down or DFA'd or et cetera.
Yeah, I think that, it's a good problem to have, right? And I feel like this wasn't a problem that they had last year in terms of depth, in terms of kind of players to replace an injured player or somebody like a struggling player. And now there's just a plethora of them. And it's a great problem to have. I just feel like it probably will be the case that a good player will be left off not left off the roster, be the odd man out of that rotation, of the bullpen, of that 40-man roster. And I'm really, really intrigued to see how this is handled, who gets the call, so to say, and who gets the notice to say, hey, like, you've done great, but you're either going to Worcester, you're going to the pen, or we need to find a different role for you for this team.
I think one guy that fans got to keep their eye on as well is, Mondesi. He's on his way back in the next month or so. That's another 40-man roster move. And so even though, we might get some answers regarding not only the bullpen, but in the rotation in the coming weeks, the shuffling seems like almost every single day, which, gives, people in Red Sox land a lot more to talk about. But, if you want to continue to stay updated with the team, over on Locked On Red Sox, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Red Sox over on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we want to thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Now, for my everydayers, tomorrow on the show is unfortunately my last episode on the podcast. And, it's going to be one where we sort of reminisce on the best moments that Lorna and I have had as co-hosts of Locked On Red Sox over the last year and a half. So if you want some happy tears, some sad tears, as well as just some good moments and reminiscence of this great podcast, make sure to tune in tomorrow. And also, if you want to stay updated, everything that's happening regarding the podcast, make sure to follow Locked On Red Sox over on Twitter. It's LO_Red Sox. Myself, it's at Jake Iggy. And also my co-host, Lauren, is La 3 Laws, Lauren with 4 R's. But we'll end this episode how we always end it. Keep the faith, stay positive, and let's go Sox. Peace.